Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. It seems like it's been a long time since we've chatted. I am recording this Sunday evening so you can have something in your ear holes Monday morning when you get up and start your week. Hope you have a wonderful week. Sounds like things might warm up here in the Berg a little bit. It'd be nice. So a lot's gone down in the league and Steelers and all that stuff since we chatted last. But obviously the big thing is the combine, and I was back and forth from there. I am all caught up, just to pull back the curtain, I am all caught up on the combine except for this final day. I had a bunch of family stuff today, so I have not dug into any of the O-line stuff. But I will tonight and tomorrow and the next day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to talk. Something we'll do this week and probably the next 2 days unless some news breaks, which could. Is I'll dig into some specific offensive prospects that may have changed my tune because of the combine or piqued an interest or whatever. And then next day we'll do defense or vice versa, whatever. But just today's a real general podcast. And first of all, the combine was an awesome experience. I got a lot of insight on what's going on in the world, talked to Steeler people, league-wide people, media people. And it was great, and I feel like I have a better feel for the draft and how free agency is going to play out, and et cetera, et cetera. And so let's start draft stuff. Big picture, I feel more and more likely that the first 2 picks are going to be quarterbacks. Now, that doesn't change what the Steelers are doing all that much, but especially, I know Tennessee is open for business to get out. And I think a team like the Giants or the Raiders or somebody like that will move to Jets, will move to 1 and take Ward. And all the intel I'm getting from every source, and I think it is a massive mistake. And frankly, us Steeler people should hope it happens. But I think the Browns are going to take Shedeur Sanders at 2. I think that's a terrible decision for them. I just think their infrastructure is in such a bad situation that you're begging for a rookie quarterback to fail. But they're pretty good at having rookie quarterbacks fail. That's kind of a trend through that organization. And frankly, I'm not a huge Sanders fan. So again, highly subject to change, but I'm feeling in a strong way that the first 2 picks will be quarterbacks. History shows this is how it goes, really. And then you'll get like Hunter and Abdul Carter, whose injury doesn't look like it's going to change his stock all that much. There's the next couple people off the board. Needless to say, I don't think any of those 4 players we mentioned are going to be Steelers, but it could have a ripple effect of who gets quarterbacks and all that stuff as well. And if the Browns are just going to stick and pick a quarterback at 2, I think that really hurts their organization, especially for the short term, but we'll see. Anyway, as I sort through these top prospects and Steeler needs and free agency and availability of cap space and all those things, I don't know what to think right this minute of what way I'm leaning for the first round pick. I think it's real easy to say, well, you take the defensive tackle, Matt. It's a great defensive tackle draft and they need the next Cam Hayward. I just don't know who that player is going to be. I think there's a really good chance both Michigan guys and Nolan, who seems to have some character stuff, aren't even there at 21. And there's not a 4th defensive tackle that I'm sprinting to the podium for. Now, there's a bunch that I still like, but that might be a trade back 10 spots and take them, or day 2. And there's some really good ones. So I definitely am not ignoring, trust me, the defensive tackle situation for the Steelers. But know that this is an exceptional D-tackle draft with great depth in all shapes and sizes. So ideally, I would like to take a D-tackle in round 1. I just don't know who that is because I'm not loving the idea of trading up and losing picks either, because that's a running back or something else that you don't need. Now, I do think maybe receiver in round 1, but I also think very strongly, and we'll mention Deebo Samuel here in a bit, that they're going to add a brand name wide receiver in the coming weeks, trade or when free agency opens. Cooper Kupp, something like that. Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, somebody and you have had on your fantasy team in the years. Now, it doesn't mean you're done there or that's the answer, but I really like Golden from Texas, and I really liked him even before he ran the fastest time amongst receivers. The other guys, there'll be somebody available, like Buka, Burden, Tet McMillan. But I also really like the day 2 receivers, and I think there'll be a couple to pick from there. We can get into those names as we go through this. I'm not big on running back in round 1, but there are 2 that I would consider. Genty, I would run to the podium. And I've thought all along that defensive back corner would be something addressed before the draft, and I still think that. But there's a lot of interesting defensive backs here of all shapes and sizes, including 2 really versatile, extremely talented safeties that would be your big slot, do-it-all type guy. Jahdae Barron from Texas. I love Ravel from East Carolina, who's got an injury situation. But there's a lot of really intriguing defensive backs. So I'm just throwing it out there. Your perspective on these things change so shortly after the combine. And I'd love to hear some of your opinions. But I'm kind of up in the air right now with my strategy in round 1 for the Steelers. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number 1 source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA to college basketball to NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number 1 sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So we've talked about this a lot. There's been a lot of speculation, but I do think there's going to be plenty of trades this year. We just saw Debo. I think Myles Garrett is going to be on the move. I mean, guys like Kupp and Kirk that I mentioned could be traded for now or will be cut and released. Devontae Adams is going to be released. There's a lot of names out there. Godchaux, the defensive tackle from the Patriots, really interests me. Jari Alexander could be on the move. Corner. I mean, there's a lot of names to be had right now if you have cap space, which the Steelers do. So let's start with Debo. I'm sure a lot of you are disappointed the Steelers didn't trade their 5th-round pick as opposed to Washington trading their 5th-round pick for Debo Samuel. I understand that. That would be a nice bird in the hand right now. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know how excited he is to carry the football at this stage of his career. He's never been great against man coverage. He's a zone coverage beater. And he's fine. There's also talk that they might still consider trading Ayuk. If that's something that's real and you just pick up his contract without have to pay the signing bonus. I know he's coming off a career or season-ending injury, but man, I mean, that's who you're after. I mean, in terms of getting better, beating man coverage, doing the tough stuff. But I wasn't brokenhearted when Samuel went to the Commanders. Now, I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my face that if the news was emergency breaking podcast, Samuel to the Steelers for 5th, I would have been fine with that too. I mean, I think that's a quality move. But I don't think this is a case of Steelers are sitting on their hands. They're not going to do anything. This is going to be another offseason where receivers go everywhere but here. And I don't think Debo is what he used to be very honest with you. So there's that. Stafford re-signed with the Rams. I'm sure some of you were a little brokenhearted about that. That was clearly the best quarterback option to win football games. Who knows what it would have cost you? I do believe that the Rams did shop him or allowed his agent to shop. And in the end, both sides kind of figured it out that we're better with each other, which it didn't make a ton of sense for me from the beginning, unless it was only over dollars. So maybe this is some posturing by team, player, agent, etc. But I never thought that there was anything more than a 5 or 10% chance that Matthew Stafford was going to be a Steeler. So what's that leave? Well, what I think you're going to see, and that's why I made this a very generic podcast today, is everybody gets back from Indy. You already had the majority, you already had a draft board built. You already had a free agency board built, of course. But now you kind of refine it, and you've talked to a bunch of agents, and you have a lot more numbers, and you have a lot more medical, and some of that medical takes a while to decipher. Oh no, we got to take our 3rd ranked corner off the board and our 2nd ranked guard because they're medical rejects. Okay, that reshuffles thing. We thought this position was stronger than it is. Or the opposite. I mean, you can get good news too. Unfortunately, most medical is bad news, of course, as it is for all of us, I suppose. But so there's going to be a day or two where teams regroup. You know, you get back from Indy, get back to the grindstone. Let's look at our board. Where are the pockets? Maybe we move this guy from tier 2 to tier 3, or take him off the board completely. So there's some of that. But I really got the impression, and they flat out said it, Omar in particular, that they really want to get a quarterback in place before free agency opens. So that means not Sam Darnold. It could mean Aaron Rodgers if he's released. It could mean trading for Derek Carr, which I don't think he's going anywhere. But basically, it probably 90% of the chance comes down to Fields versus Wilson. And I don't have anyone telling me this. It's just logic in my way of looking at it is I think they'll get one of those. If that's the case, I think they'll get one of those two locked up this week. I mean, it wouldn't blow me away if they traded for Kirk or Kupp or signed somebody that's released. I just have a hunch that there will be a couple moves, at least one big one, quarterback first, coming this week. And there certainly could be more cap relief cuts as well. Cordarrelle Patterson, Ogunjobi. There's several. I mean, trust me, there's Holcomb. I mean, I don't know about Ogunjobi. Is probably the last priority of those, but so I would expect there to be pretty big Steeler news this week. And just want to try to let you know where we stand. This is a take a step back as teams are podcast kind of before the storm. And trust me, I'll have all sorts of combine reactions on individual players too all week for you, really. And if there's anyone you want to know about, feel free to shoot me a tweet or, a comment on YouTube or whatever of, hey, Matt, this guy did this at the combine. Does that change your tune? We'll do a lot of that this week if you want. I think that's great. All right, everyone, over and out. Take care.